Hurricane season in Florida, huh? It's never really a walk in the park, is it? But this year, well, this year seems like it's really throwing some curveballs our way. You know, you send in those articles about Hurricane Milton.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. This thing is brewing, and it's brewing fast.
Wow.
We're looking at a potential major hurricane here heading straight for Florida's west coast.
Right.
And it could be making landfall by midweek.
Yeah, you've got that right. This is a situation we got to take seriously, no doubt about it. Those articles you sent, they're a goldmine, really, packed with all the nitty-gritty meteorological details. Those are what help us really understand what's going on out there.
Yeah.
So let's break this down, okay? What's the crucial stuff you need to know right now? What should you be looking out for, and why? Why is being prepared so incredibly important?
Okay, let's do it. Now, something both of these articles really hit on is this rapid intensification of Milton.
Right.
They're saying it's going from a tropical storm to a potential hurricane, and it's happening way faster than anyone expected. So what's the deal with that? Why so fast?
Yeah, it all boils down to the water. The
Yeah.
Gulf of Mexico, it's unusually warm right now, and that is like rocket fuel for hurricanes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the warmer that water is, the faster these storms can crank up the power. And
Yeah.
Milton's down there right now just gorging itself on that warm Gulf water.
Yeah.
Like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so Milton's getting stronger quickly.
Quickly.
And the articles also mention some satellite and aircraft data showing a large burst of convection.
Right, right.
And I don't know about you, but that sounds a little, well, ominous. What does that actually mean when we hear that?
Okay, so imagine this. You're looking at a satellite image, and suddenly, bam, it's like this massive explosion of clouds over Milton. That's essentially what's going on.
Okay.
This burst of convection, it's like a giant neon sign flashing. This storm is sucking up all the energy it can from that warm water. And that is not something you want to see. It's a clear sign that things are escalating and fast.
So we've got Milton, it's bulking up, it's energized, it's ready for whatever. But the million-dollar question is, where is it going?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
Everybody wants to know. And, you know, one of the articles had a great line. It said, don't focus on the middle line.
Yeah.
And they're right, you know?
Which, come to think of it, is pretty good life advice in general.
Oh, absolutely it is. But what it really means in this situation, in this specific case, is this. Every model out there, they're all showing this hurricane slamming into Florida's west coast.
Right.
But where exactly it makes landfall, that's still a bit of a mystery. It's too early to tell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing that's really got our attention, though, is this southward shift we're seeing in the forecast track. So I guess that's good news for the Yucatan. Right. They must be breathing a sigh of relief.
Right.
But when we talk about that southward shift, what's that going to mean for Florida's west coast? Especially when you think about, you know, the storm surge, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah, that southward shift, it definitely got us worried. It puts areas like Tampa Bay right in the crosshairs for a potentially massive storm surge. Yeah. Because one of the articles even pointed out, they said this could be even worse than what we saw with Hurricane Helene's surge. And they even went back talking about those hurricanes that hit Tampa Bay back in like 1921 and 1848.
Right.
I mean, that's going way back in the history books.
That is going back, and it really highlights something important here. You know, experts, they look at Tampa Bay as one of the most vulnerable places, at least when we're talking about major metro areas when it comes to hurricanes.
Right.
The shape of that bay, the fact that the water is so shallow, the low elevation of all the land around it's like all these things come together, and it creates, well, it's a recipe for disaster when you have a storm surge.
So, okay, let me get this straight. We've got this hurricane. It's getting stronger by the minute, practically. Nobody can say for sure where it's going to hit.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, we're talking about a storm surge that could be one for the record books.
That's right.
And what about the wind? Because the articles, they were mentioning something called hostile upper level winds, which, I don't know, that just sounds weird to me.
Yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be that if there are strong winds, that actually makes a hurricane weaker?
Right. Right. I know it seems kind of backwards, right?
It does.
You think strong winds, they'd tear a hurricane apart, but it's not always that simple.
Okay.
See, these upper level winds, they can actually make some things even worse, even if they stop the hurricane from, like, reaching its full potential, you know.
So are these winds a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to build a tower, right, out of blocks or something.
Yeah.
And someone comes along and they're pointing a fan right at the top of your tower.
Uh-huh.
Now, the fan, it might not knock the whole thing over, not completely, but it's definitely going to make it a lot harder to build it up nice and straight.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of like that with these hostile upper-level winds and hurricanes. They mess with the hurricane's shape. They make it lopsided.
Okay.
Now, you might think, well, lopsided, that doesn't sound so bad. That sounds better than a direct hit.
Right.
But here's the thing. It often means that the wind field, the area where those strong winds are happening, that gets bigger. So a bigger area gets hit by those strong winds.
So instead of a direct hit in one spot, it's like that power gets spread out over a wider area.
Exactly. And it can also make thunderstorms more likely, those really nasty ones, especially on that weaker side of the storm.
Okay, so wider area of impact, more potential for strong winds and severe thunderstorms.
Right.
And we haven't even gotten to the rain yet. The articles, they're talking about what, like 5 to 8 inches of rain, maybe even a foot in some places?
Yeah, that is a ton of rain, no question about it. And that's where this whole front interacting with all that moisture from Milton, that's where it gets really dicey. Think about it like a sponge.
Yeah.
You got a sponge and it's already soaking wet, right?
Right.
And you just keep trying to pour more and more water into it.
Oh, it's just going to overflow everywhere.
Exactly. That's what we're looking at here. Widespread flooding, and it could be bad, really bad. And it's not just going to be along the coast either. This could reach far inland.
Okay, so just to recap here, we've got this potential storm surge. Could
Cool.
be historic. We've got strong winds over a wider area than we might expect, and enough rain to cause some serious flooding. And all of this, I mean, this is happening fast. This is a lot for Floridians to wrap their heads around, especially with, we still don't know exactly where this hurricane's going to make landfall, how strong it's going to be when it gets here.
You're right. It is a lot. And that is precisely why we have to be prepared.
It is. It is. So for our listeners in Florida, especially those of you on the West Coast, I mean, what's the big takeaway here? What do you need to be doing, like, right now?
Don't wait. That's the big thing. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Every hurricane, it's like its own beast,
Right.
And this one, it's moving fast, and there are a lot of things that could change. Get prepared and do it now. That means, first of all, you got to know your evacuation zone. Where do you go if you need to get out?
Right. Get that hurricane kit ready. The essentials, food, water, batteries, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And have a plan, a solid plan for your family and your pets. What are you going to do if things get bad? And listen, if you're in an area, even if it's just prone to a little bit of flooding, when it rains hard, take steps now to protect your property. Don't wait until the last minute.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed when you hear about these big storms,
Huh.
especially when you're talking about the track and the intensity. I mean, we're still not 100% sure what's going to happen here. What would you say to folks out there who are maybe feeling a little panicky right now? I get it. I totally get it. It is a lot to process.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Taking action, even small steps, it helps. It really does. It gives you a sense of control. Check your supplies. Make sure those batteries are good. You've got flashlights. Talk to your family. Go over that plan again.
Yeah.
It's about being prepared, not panicked.
Prepared, not panicked. That's a good one. I like that. Now, we've been talking a lot about Milton's potential as, this major hurricane.
Right.
But what if it weakens? I mean, it could happen. What if it weakens before it makes landfall?
Yeah.
Are we still in a dangerous situation?
Absolutely. Even if Milton weakens, and hey, it's possible, the storm surge, the wind, the rain, all of that together, it can still be devastating. So my advice, it doesn't change. Stay informed, keep an eye on the news, listen to your local officials, and whatever you do, heed those warnings. I don't care if it's a Category 1 or a Category 5. Those warnings are there for a reason.
Yeah, don't get hung up on the category. Pay attention to the people who are, the boots on the ground, the ones who are looking out for everybody's safety. They're going to have the most up-to-date information. Now, if our listeners want to find that reliable information about Hurricane Milton, where should they go?
The National Hurricane Center, that's your one-stop shop. They've got the latest forecasts, the tracking maps, any warnings, watches, all of it. And check it often because, like we've been saying, things can change quickly.
This has been, this is a lot to digest. I'm guessing you're probably checking those forecasts right now as we speak.
Right.
But before we let you go, I want to leave you with one more thought. And it's something that always strikes me in situations like this. We've been talking about the science, the data, the preparations, all of that's important. But there's also the human element here, right? The power of community. Even if we're not right there in Florida, in Milton's path, you can still make a difference. Reach out to your friends, your family who are down there. Let them know you're thinking about them. Remind them to be safe. Sometimes that little bit of support, it goes a long way.
Absolutely. A quick check-in, a reminder to be prepared, and offer to help. It can make all the difference in the world. Stay safe out there, everyone.
And remember, stay informed, stay prepared, and look out for each other. That's how we get through these things together.